Hello, I'm Max Hoppy and I'm going to teach you how to drive a manual transmission. Why I'm qualified to teach this is because I've been driving one for the past 2 years because I have no other options. What is a transmission? The transmission is responsible for delivering power from the engine to the wheels. It does this through a series of gears and different gearing ratios to deliver more torque and a higher top speed. What makes a transmission a manual transmission? So normal automatic transmission that you'd be used to utilizes a hydraulic computer that is a little more complicated and a little more expensive to tell it when to deliver power where and what gears to shift into to deliver the best power. A manual transmission is operated by the driver themselves through a stick shift. The history of transmissions. So in 1894, the first transmission was built, and this was because internal combustion engines were becoming more of a prolific thing. And so it was kind of a necessity that they make those. And then around the turn of the century is when they started adding synchros to transmissions. And synchros allow all the gears in a transmission to rotate at the same speed regardless of how fast your car is currently going. So this allows smoother shifting, and you can go easier on your transmission and not hurt it as much. So important terms you need to know when driving a manual. You need to know a clutch. A clutch is a plate that corresponds to a third pedal near the driver's foot, and the clutch moves and will separate power from the engine to the transmission and therefore the wheels. So when the clutch is in, the transmission will be receiving no power from the engine, which means your wheels will be receiving no power from the engine. RPM stands for rotations per minute, and that's how fast, that's the cyclical rate of your engine, how fast it's rotating per minute. Now, in some cars, your tachometer, which is your RPM gauge, will tell you 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or in increments of 10, 20, 30, 40. Regardless, take that first number, put it in front of 1,000. So 1 is 1,000 RPM, 2 is 2,000 RPM, 3 is 3,000, and so on. A gear shift is a staff that sticks up to the right side, or in some countries to the left side of the driver, and that is what you use to change gears. And then neutral is when there is no power going from the engine to the wheels through the transmission. So this is what a clutch pedal looks like. This is a brake pedal. This is your accelerator, which gives it the engine gas and allows you to go faster. Most automatic cars, all automatic cars, will have a larger brake pedal and no clutch. So this is a manual car only thing. So how you want to get started in a manual is when you first get in your manual car, you want to go ahead and make sure it is in neutral. You can do that by moving the stick shift left and right freely. When it is in a gear, it won't move left and right freely. So that is how you know you're in neutral. You can also put the clutch all the way in, down to the floor, and that is another method of ensuring that you're in neutral and there's no power going to the wheels from the engine. So now that you're in neutral completely, you can put the clutch in all the way to the floor, put the key in the ignition, turn it over, and the engine will cycle over and then start, and it'll start reciprocating by itself. You want to slowly let the clutch out while the shifter is in neutral, and then you're perfectly fine. That is, your car is started, it is idling, you're in no gear, there's no power going to the wheels. You can also use this time, if you're new to it, to get used to the feel of how much gas you'll have to input to get the RPMs in a certain range. So this is stick shift. This is first, second, third, fourth, fifth, reverse, and neutral. So first gear, you would be going left, up, and then you'll be in the gear. Your shifter won't be able to move left or right. And then when you go down to second gear, you'll just bring it down. And so it's called an H pattern shifter, and it's what most manual cars use. How to get moving in a manual. So now that your engine is running, you can move forward in a car, and how you do that is you put the clutch all the way in, shift it to first, so left and then up, and that's going to be first gear, and then rev the accelerator up to around 2,000 RPM. So on your tachometer, that could be either a 20 or a 2. Once it's up to 2,000, you're going to slowly let the clutch out until you feel the biting point. The biting point is when the clutch starts to make contact with the engine. So the transmission is now receiving a little bit of power from the engine, and your wheels will start to move forward a little bit. It's very important that you don't just dump the clutch or drop the clutch at this moment, because this is when you're getting a little bit of power, and a lot of new people like to drop the clutch because they think they're already in the gear. You're not in the gear until the clutch is all the way out, so take it slowly the rest of the way. When you're moving forward at a constant pace at about 2,000 RPM, clutch completely let out in first gear, that's when you know you're going to be moving forward. You're going to be completely in first gear. You have no issues. So how to keep moving in a manual is once you're moving in first gear, as soon as you hit 3 or 4,000 RPM, that's when you're going to want to head and let off the accelerator, push the clutch all the way in, bring the first gear down to the second gear, bring the clutch out slowly, just like you did for first gear, while giving the accelerator a little bit of gas, so about 2,000 RPM again. And then you're going to let the clutch all the way out. Now you're in second gear. Your top speed should now be higher by about a magnitude of like 2 or so. So if you were going 30 miles an hour in first gear top speed, you'll be going to 60 miles an hour now in second gear. And so it just increases your top speed, but it lowers your acceleration each gear you go up. So one thing to be aware of is you will start stalling out when you first start, and stalling out is when the wheels and the momentum of the car are not enough to keep the car moving. So you will let the clutch out too fast, and when it makes contact with the transmission, your car will not be moving. And so the amount of force it takes to move your vehicle overrides the amount of force your engine is putting out. And this will stall your engine, which means it will stop your engine, and your engine will die. It's fine. You just put the clutch in, put it back in neutral, restart the engine. This happens all the time. So how to keep moving, you want to be aware of your RPM gauge. This is again your tachometer, and how I was telling you it's 1,000 rates per minute, and so 1,000, 2,000, 3,000. You're going to have a red line, and that's when you hit the top of what your engine is capable of. You want to avoid this. You want to stay within the 2,000 to 4,000 RPM range in a manual. Any more is going to start hurting the engine, but it's there. And the red line is usually around 7,000 RPM, sometimes 8,000. And then how to stop a manual is after you've been driving for a bit, you can just put the clutch in after letting off the accelerator. If you're on the accelerator while you put the clutch in, at any moment, you're going to go ahead and burn your clutch, and that's going to wear it down faster, meaning you're going to have to replace it sooner. So let the accelerator off, put the clutch all the way in, whatever gear you're in, drop it down into neutral, let it sit in neutral, let the clutch out. You can let the clutch out however fast you want while the car is in neutral. While the stick is in neutral, you're fine. So let the clutch all the way out, press the brakes slowly, and then you can come to a complete stop like normal. Now, the range of shifting both up and down is going to typically be 2,000 to 3,000. Once you hit 3,000, you want to shift up. Once you hit about 1,500, you want to shift down. So when you shift down, your RPMs will go up and your speed will go down. When you shift up, RPMs go down, speed goes up. And then when you come to a complete stop, you want to go ahead and get your handbrake, which is this thing right here. This will be where your stick is when you're shifting. This will be the handbrake. Pull the handbrake up, and that's going to lock your rear two tires, and that's going to stop your car from moving when you're parked. It's called a parking brake as well. So now you know how to drive a manual car. It's pretty easy. You'll get the hang of it. Last few things to make sure y'all are sure on is you want to go easy on the clutch. Clutches are expensive and they're hard to get to. So if you're dropping the clutch all the time, or if you're revving while putting the clutch in, it's going to wear it out faster. You don't want that. And then when you put the shifter into a gear, if it starts grinding, making like a noise, you want to pull it out, rev a little higher, and then put it in, and you'll be fine. Except for first gear. First gear, you never want to go downshift into first gear until you're at a complete stop. So that's going to be it. Thank you for bearing with me. See y'all later.